So welcome back, everyone. We're going to have a different kind of a conversation now. I'm really excited about bringing on my next guest, who is Attorney Josh Lopez. He's the owner of the law office of Joshua A. Lopez, LLC. And, I want to talk a little bit about first you and then what we're going to talk about today. Go ahead.
All right, so my name is Josh Lopez. I'm an attorney here in Arizona, but I'm actually licensed as well in California and Nevada. I've had my practice for almost 10 years now. I practice criminal defense, and today I'm going to talk to you about a little bit about domestic violence and those types of offenses.
See, there's a lot of different kinds of criminal defense. So when someone is charged with domestic violence in Arizona, what does that actually mean under the law?
So here in Arizona, domestic violence isn't a crime in and
Bump
of
him
itself. What's going on is that it's actually attached to a criminal charge like assault, disorderly conduct, criminal damage, things like that. And what it does is it enhances the penalty if someone is to get convicted with that offense in court.
So when you first came on, you asked me that if I had any other of my own questions I could do that. I'm going to do it because I
Okay.
have one now. Because a lot of times people do sort of argue after they've been drinking.
Correct.
Right?
All the time.
All the time. And people don't realize that things have changed. That let's say someone shoves somebody and starts to happen whatever, somebody could go to jail. Is that correct?
That is 100% correct. And in fact, most times if someone calls the police, whether it's the person themselves that did it, whether it's the alleged victim in the case, maybe it's a neighbor who calls the police, if police do an investigation and they find out that there was just maybe a minor shove during an argument or something like that, more than likely the person who is the suspect will be taken to jail that night, whether the alleged victim in the case wanted that to happen or not. And that's because here in Arizona, they are very strict regarding domestic violence offenses.
They really are. And you got to be careful. And yet, unfortunately, things happen, right?
Right.
They do. Now, I asked you earlier, you do help people valley-wide, and you are licensed in California and Nevada, and he's been doing this for 10 years. What I say is the best thing to do is to put this number in your phone. Maybe you have somebody now over the weekend, this last weekend, we have a long weekend, and things could happen, and you need a criminal defense attorney. Obviously, it could be anything under that, I guess, term, right?
Correct.
Okay, so put this number in your phone. I do like to say this, I think it's important that you have a reputable attorney in your phone, just in case something happens, or it's you or someone that you know. I've been saying it all day long, and I truly mean this. His phone number is 480-630-0799. You could check him out on his website. It's theattorneyjosh.com. So the most common situations where people see that they're facing domestic violence charges are what?
Actually, we kind of just went over that just a little bit. The most common that I generally get are, and just so you know what domestic means, again, is it could be spouses, it could be roommates, it can be past relationships, people that live under the same roof. It's not just the typical situation where it's spouses or boyfriend and girlfriend. They could be family members. That's what domestic means. Now, the most common situation that I get a lot of times is when two people have been drinking. Usually it's only the two witnesses. It's the defendant and the alleged victim in the matter. Something gets out of hand. One of them calls the police, and now the police are doing an investigation. That's a common situation. Another situation is where maybe family members went out to eat, drank a little bit too much, and now they're fighting in the parking lot, or maybe a situation where they go downtown to a club, there's a party, there's a fight, and it just so happens to be a domestic relationship. So
They're
those are
fighting
the line
everywhere.
calls I get.
They
Yeah.
really are. And fortunately, fights happen, and they get heated. And sometimes something happens where you go a little bit too far.
Correct, and
Right.
it doesn't even need to be something crazy, like someone gets seriously injured. Like I said, just a little push, that's domestic violence. Maybe someone takes someone's phone and throws it, the phone breaks, throws it against the wall, maybe there's a little hole in the wall. that can be criminal damage. Maybe they're just too loud, slamming doors. There's different ways to add that allegation of domestic violence onto a crime like assault, disorderly conduct, criminal damage.
You can't even slam a door today, you know? I mean, honestly though, I think that today more than ever, you have to be careful in this area, right?
That's correct, yeah.
Absolutely, and I think you said a lot when you just said there, it's not just the husband and wife, right? It could be the roommate situation.
Correct.
Or ex-boyfriend, girlfriend, or what have you. Even someone that you don't know, you know, in a restaurant and you're waiting for your sushi bar, whatever, right? It can happen anywhere.
Well, as long as it's under the domestic relationship, if they can show there's a domestic relationship, and that's actually one of the ways to defend it. Sometimes we can show that, no, there was no domestic relationship, although it may have seemed like it. Maybe it's an overnight guest rather than a roommate, and then we can strike the DV allegation in court.
So is it still under, though, domestic?
If it is roommates, if it is family, romantic relationship, sexual relationship, things like that, that's how that domestic part gets added onto the crime in and of.
Okay, I'm glad we clarified that for me. So the phone number to call, it's 480-630-0799. Put this number in your phone. It's always good to have, especially, you know, if you know that that's, maybe you do a little drinking, and that's fine. But, you know, make sure that you have this number in your phone as a reputable attorney, just in case. You never know when you're gonna need something like this. 480-630-0799. The website is theattorneyjosh.com. So if somebody is arrested, okay, what happens next?
Okay, so what would happen is, assuming the police already did an investigation, they pick they're gonna arrest this person, they think this is the culprit, they're going to jail. They'll likely see a judge within 24 hours, they're gonna be arraigned, they're gonna they're gonna enter a not guilty plea, they're gonna set out a new court date. So generally speaking, these cases go on for between like 4 and 6 months, depending if it's gonna go to trial or not. But the thing that immediately happens, which really ruins people's lives initially, is that there are release conditions. So even if somebody gets out, there's no bond, the release conditions will indicate they're not to return to the scene of the crime, they are not to have any contact with the victim. And what happens is that makes it so maybe they can't have contact with their spouse or their kids, and now the alleged victim has no idea what's going on. That really turns people's lives upside down. It creates a scenario where now someone's trying to figure out where they're gonna live for the next few months, unless we can amend those release conditions and start fighting the case.
And that's where you come in.
That's where I come in.
Yeah, because you want somebody who can do that, for sure.
Yes, and that's why I like these cases, in that I'm able to help people who find themselves in a situation they never planned to be in. A lot of the people I help in these situations are first-time offenders.
Mm-hmm.
They never knew that sometimes an insignificant little event could blow out of proportion and get them into some serious trouble.
You know, bad things sometimes happen to good people, especially when you don't know what that little thing could be that it could have pushed it over the edge. And it sounds like almost anything.
A lot of times it's alcohol, but it can happen to anybody. It doesn't discriminate against age. I represent all sorts of people. Sort of like DUI, it can happen to anybody. It's not unique to any specific socioeconomic group. So I help a lot of people. I get a lot of dismissals, and I encourage people to look me up on Google. I only take people's cases where I can add value. I don't like to take people's money and not be able to get them a good result.
So that phone number to call again, it's 480-630-0799, Valley-wide. He's been doing this for 10 years here. He encourages you to look him up on Google. He's also licensed in California and Nevada. Put the number in your phone. Maybe you know somebody that's been in this situation. Let's tell them about this. That phone number is 480-630-0799. You can check him out on his website, which is theattorneyjosh.com. We're going to go to a break. When we come back, we're going to talk further. I want people to understand how important, when you hear these things on this show, the information is power. Maybe you're learning something right now, you know, what could happen if, right? But you also might have gotten into this situation, and you just give him a call. He does free consultations.
Correct.
Right? And then, of course, What you need is somebody that's a good attorney who is gonna help you, first of all, in the first place, because right away, you gotta get yourself, you gotta know where you're gonna go. You may not be able to go back and see your spouse, your significant other, or what have you, and that's where you come in.
That's correct.
That phone number again, it's 480-630-0799. Again, that website is theattorneyjosh.com. He encourages you, please, go to Google, check him out. Again, it's 480-630-0799. We're gonna go to a break and we're gonna come back and we're gonna talk further. This is important stuff, folks. You like what we're doing?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So you like how I'm doing it with you?
Yeah.
Okay, good. We're still live in this room.
Okay, no problem. I was just gonna say, like, on Google, if people search me, like, they can just search Attorney Josh,
Okay,
and I believe I am one of the first people that comes up.
okay. And 5-star rated?
Yes.
I'm gonna say 5-star rated everywhere. How's that?
Perfect.
Everywhere. Okay?
All right, perfect.
Now, I just wanna ask you on this kind of a, well, I guess I shouldn't ask this. I'm wondering when the best time for them to call you. I
I mean,
mean,
they could have a case right now, but whenever they have a question, I do free consultations.
Okay.
I'm happy to speak with people, and again, I'm not gonna take a case I can't help someone.
okay. And I wanna also talk about, let me see, I was right here. Oh, here's a good, yeah, you got that there. They don't want to, okay. Well, we're just gonna go deeper into this, and I love that. I'd like a story.
Story. Okay. I can think of one that I
Okay.
recently did.
Which is one?
Well, recently that happened. My client was charged in like a family fight, and both people allegedly took knives out on each other. But there were a lot of discrepancies in the case, and I don't think that the state had enough evidence to prove the case. So I wrote a dismissal request, and later that day they dismissed the case.
Wow, that's good. I mean,
but
that day?
like, that does not happen.
No.
What I mean is, that would not have happened if you didn't have an attorney.
Oh, of course not, and none of it, if you don't have one, I know somebody a long time ago that she actually ended up staying in jail more than one night.
Right. Yeah.
Because she didn't have the money to get out,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't remember what happened, but it was something about her being there several days.
I mean, whether it's this, like something like this, or just like any criminal case, I mean, we're talking about like some things I do, and I do a lot of domestic violence cases, but it is always best to hire an attorney. In definitely
Does
a
anyone
criminal
try
case.
and do it on their own?
I mean, there's plenty of people. I'll show up to court, and you'll see people do it themselves.
Wow.
You're not getting the best result.
Oh my
so I can
gosh,
say.
no. And we're gonna talk about that if that's okay with you.
Okay.
I'm gonna get here. So welcome back, everyone. We are talking with Attorney Josh Lopez, and we're talking about domestic violence today. And so many people, you said it happens so often that sometimes somebody does something a little too much, and you don't know what that little too much can be, unfortunately, and somebody could end up in jail. We talked a little bit about this during the break, and that is that you need to get an attorney. You said it's very important. Tell them why.
Well, when somebody goes into court and they have no experience, they don't know what they're doing. They're showing up maybe the prosecutor gives them some sort of offer just to get it off their desk. When you have an attorney who knows what they're doing, we're making the prosecutor work. Just by having an attorney already in the case, the offer is likely going to get better. But when you have an attorney like myself, it's not like we're just going in there and saying, hey, you know, what can we do? Like, give me this, give me that. No, I have to get all the discovery in the case, which is the police reports, pictures, body cam, witness statements, everything that the state would use against my client if the case was to go to trial. I'm going through that. I'm looking for strengths and weaknesses in the case, and on the behind the scenes, I'm talking to the prosecutor about these things in emails, over the phone, not just in court. And then I'm creating mitigation packets, deviation requests, dismissal requests. I'm doing all those things for my client, and that's what gets them those good results. And like we had talked about, that's why I encourage everybody who's interested in what I'm saying to check me out on Google. Just search Attorney Josh. I should come up right away. But that's why I have those good reviews, because I work extremely hard for my clients and I get very good results.
His phone number again, it's 480-630-0799. 5-star rated everywhere. Don't do it on your own. I think that's crazy for anyone to try and do it on their own. And he does a free consultation. Get that consultation and see what he can do for you. So I did want to ask you this. What if the victim says that they don't want to press charges? Will that prevent an arrest?
So when somebody calls my office, that's actually one of the first questions people ask. They'll indicate to me that, hey, my significant other or my roommate or my mom, my family member, whoever the alleged victim was, that they don't want to press charges, they don't want to have anything to do with prosecuting me. Will the case get dismissed? Do I actually need an attorney? And the answer is 99% of the time, the state is still going to bring the case, and that's because, like I was saying earlier, Arizona takes domestic violence incidents extremely seriously. So it's kind of unusual that, in my experience, that police even ask the question whether they want to bring charges or not, because somebody is still getting arrested and the case is still being brought. So the answer is, generally speaking, no, the case is not getting dismissed on its own, especially if the state has the evidence they need, aside from what the victim said, to prove the case.
Also, what you see on TV is not the same that happens in real life.
Oh, that's definitely true.
Right? And I know we see a lot of things, but please don't believe what you see on TV. I do also hear, which is one that is that I want to ask you here. What are some of the possible penalties for domestic violence here in Arizona?
So one of the things I think that a lot of people don't realize is that whether it's a misdemeanor or a felony, if you are convicted of an offense that has a domestic violence allegation added onto it, you lose gun rights. So even a misdemeanor offense, you will lose gun rights. Another thing is that if you are convicted of a domestic violence related offense, there's mandatory classes. So there's 26 domestic violence classes. 1, those are not cheap, and 2, those are not short. It can take up to 6 months to complete those. Other things to be aware of are there can be fines and fees, probation, jail time. If it happens to be a third offense within 7 years, it is you're looking at prison potentially. If it's a second offense within 7 years, mandatory 30 days jail. So it's very serious. And again, it could be a simple little push, something that seems so insignificant to you, but because it was a domestic violence related offense, the penalties can be very harsh.
Can you imagine you threw your phone, your cell phone, and it hit the wall, and now it's become a little bit of a what they call a domestic violence offense.
Right, and things like that happen all the time.
All the time.
I get cases every single week, little, like these are, I don't want to say bottom of the barrel, but just little insignificant issues that, again, are very harsh consequences, but it's just terrible that people find themselves in those situations, and it's not always the thing that just comes to the top of people's mind. I think a lot of people think that there's just a big fight between 2 spouses, or someone got severely injured or just beat up or choked.
Mm-hmm.
Generally speaking, like yes, those things do happen, but most of my clients, there are these insignificant little incidents that take place, but
More so than ever, right
yeah.
now. More so than ever, because I don't know. The world has changed. You know, in my old day, if you push somebody, oh yeah, whatever. But you know what? Today, you push somebody, that's not a big no-no.
That's definitely right. I mean, I get sometimes older people, they're like, oh, I had this in the past, it was dismissed. Well, that's not happening today. It doesn't just get dismissed just because the event was insignificant. You need an attorney who knows what they're doing to go in there and fight for you to get the best possible result.
So let's say that somebody's listening right now who has already been charged with a domestic violence case. Or let's say somebody was in that position. What's the first thing they should do?
Well, the first thing they should do, depending on like exactly where they are, would be to obviously not speak to the police. But if they're in a position where they can now call me to represent them, or at least speak with me, I would recommend calling myself to speak with them to go over their options and what I can do to help. And again, I don't take cases unless I think that I'm going to be able to add value. I do not like taking people's money where I'm not going to be able to add value to their case.
So the first thing that people do, especially when they're drinking, is if the cops come, if they're called, is they talk too much.
Yes, they talk too much.
They talk
admit
too
to things, and then once you admit to something, I mean, it's really hard to defend against that.
Right.
It's not that we can't do anything. Now we're playing damage control.
Okay.
And there's still
there
things,
you go.
There's
Mhm.
still things that can be worked out and resolved. Like I mentioned before, I draft a lot of mitigation packets, deviation requests, dismissal requests. Sometimes we want to put together character letters. We want to show from my client's point of view what happened, why it won't happen again, show that they're a good person. A lot of times my clients don't have any criminal history.
Mhm.
That's not everyone. But we want to put those things together, and I put those things together because it works. I don't like to waste my client's time gathering different things if it didn't work.
The thing is that you have to place this phone call to him to have him represent you correctly. That is the biggest thing that you have to make sure. And if you have it in your phone, and you know that you have it there in your phone, and even if you're standing there, instead of talking to the cop, you can call Josh, and you could say, let me tell you, call my attorney, right?
Right.
Exactly. No, I mean, the main thing is, again, we know that these things can happen. Right now, we know that the littlest thing possible can put you over the edge to make you into this situation. And if you have the right person behind you, and Josh, you've been doing this for 10 years, so he's the person to call. You can check him out on Google, 5-star rated everywhere. His phone number is 480-630-0799. The website is theattorneyjosh.com. Again, valley-wide, but again, 10 years of doing this. He's also licensed in California and Nevada. Really quickly, because we only have less than like a minute and a half here, I do want you to say, I mean, you had a story that you told me that even the two people that took out these knives. Talk about that real quickly.
All right, so I just recently got a victory. This was about a week and a half ago. What had happened was my client's family had come into town. There was an issue, an argument. They had been drinking, of course. Most of these cases have to do with drug or alcohol use. They start talking about something, arguing, and the next thing you know, knives come out. Police are called. They do an investigation, and after my client decides to go with me, hire me, I draft a dismissal request because I saw that after reviewing the police reports, there were some inconsistencies in the case, and I did not believe that my client was the aggressor. We were able to argue self-defense, and the same day I sent that request to the prosecutor, they dismissed the case.
That's awesome.
And that is why it's important to have an attorney on your side. If you're serious about getting a dismissal, charges dismissed, or getting the best possible result, call my office. I'm happy to give a free consultation.
That phone number to call is 480-630-0799. Put the number in your phone, please, I implore you. Valley-wide, also licensed in California and Nevada. He's been doing this for 10 years. You can check him out on his website. It is theattorneyjosh.com, or you can call him at 480-630-0799.